There are days when you wake up already feeling heavier, as if something unseen has been quietly tightening around your mind while you slept. Nothing dramatic happened, nothing collapsed. Yet your spirit feels slightly dimmer, slightly unfocused, slightly distant from itself. Most people ignore this. They drown it in noise, in movement, in obligations. But if you slow down for a moment, if you breathe deeply and listen beneath the surface, you will sense the truth. Your peace is rarely taken by storms. It is drained by the small, silent forces you tolerate for too long. They hide inside habits you repeat without thinking. They disguise themselves as normal life. And when you finally notice the weight, it is because it has already been carried for years. Today marks the beginning of a different kind of awakening. Not the loud kind, not the heroic kind, but the quiet one that rebuilds your inner world from the foundation. You will learn to recognize 7 things that quietly weaken your clarity. 7 threads woven into your routine so subtly that you forgot they were choices. When you start removing them, not all at once, but one by one with intention, the space they occupied inside you becomes visible, and in that space, peace slowly returns, like light sliding across a room at dawn. The first thing you must eliminate is the presence of people who drain you. There are individuals whose words feel harmless yet leave you suffocated. Individuals whose constant doubts, complaints, chaos or confusion slowly bend your energy downward. They do not need to insult you to weaken you. They simply take more than you can give. You know the feeling they leave behind. That slight tightening in your chest, that dull fog in your mind, that quiet exhaustion that appears even after a short conversation. This is not sensitivity. This is your inner compass pointing towards self-preservation. Not everyone deserves full access to you. Not everyone can walk beside you through every season. When you quietly reduce the space they occupy in your life, something inside you straightens, as if your soul finally exhales. Boundaries are not cruelty, they are clarity. The second thing you must release is the belief that your life will begin later. Later, when you feel ready. Later, when fear disappears. Later, when circumstances align perfectly. But readiness is not an event. It is a decision carved in moments that feel inconvenient. Life does not wait for your confidence to arrive. It responds only to movement. And each time you postpone what you know you must do, you create a silent ache inside yourself. That ache grows. It becomes tension. It becomes guilt. It becomes the illusion that you are stuck. But you are not stuck. You are paused. And pauses turn into paralysis when they stretch too long. A single imperfect action today carries more power than 100 plans waiting for courage. If you want peace, you must stop delaying the life you are meant to build. Even a small step, repeated with discipline, reshapes your entire direction. These first 2 forces are often the strongest because they anchor themselves deep inside your daily rhythm. People who drain you and dreams you postpone both pull you away from your center. They divide your attention, blur your clarity, and stretch your energy toward places where it cannot grow. When you remove them, even slightly, something remarkable happens. Your mind becomes quieter. Your breath becomes steadier. Your decisions become firmer. And the path ahead of you, once hidden beneath noise and hesitation, begins to reveal itself. If this message is reaching you at the right moment, pause for a second and subscribe. Now take a breath and let your mind settle, because what you're about to hear reveals the weight you've been carrying without noticing. Peace grows not from adding more to your life, but from removing what silently weakens you from the inside. One of the most draining forces you must eliminate is the constant urge to explain yourself. You've spent years offering justifications that no one truly needed. You explain your decisions to seem reasonable, your silence to avoid conflict, your boundaries to prevent disappointment. Yet every explanation drains a piece of your confidence. It conditions you to believe that your value depends on how convincingly you defend your own choices. But you are allowed to evolve without writing essays about it. You are allowed to say no without offering a backstory. You are allowed to protect your energy without apologizing for the discomfort it creates in others. Some people misunderstand you because it benefits them. Others understand you effortlessly because they see you beyond your words. Preserve the second group, release the first. When you stop over-explaining, your voice grows steadier, your decisions grow clearer, and your life finally begins to belong to you. Another silent thief of your peace is comparison. Nothing erodes your inner strength faster than measuring your life by the highlight reels of others. You look at someone else's success and interpret it as your failure. You see their progress and treat your own as insufficient. Comparison convinces you that you're behind, even when you're growing. It blinds you to your victories because they don't look like someone else's. But every person walks through a different storm, carries different battles, holds different wounds. You cannot compare your depth to someone else's surface. The moment you stop chasing other people's timelines, you start noticing your own. You begin to appreciate the progress you once ignored. You realize that growth isn't loud or dramatic, it's steady and sometimes invisible, but always real. When comparison dies, presence returns. You pour your energy back into your own path instead of scattering it across the lives of strangers. You stop trying to catch horizons that aren't meant for you, and for the first time in a long time, your direction feels like your own again. There is also a heaviness that grows when you hold on to pain long after it has served its purpose. Everyone suffers, everyone breaks, everyone carries memories that sting. But suffering becomes destructive when it turns into identity, when a wound becomes your definition, when you start filtering every moment through the lens of what hurt you. Pain shapes you, but it is not meant to imprison you. There is a quiet strength in accepting the past without dragging it everywhere you go. You can remember without reliving. You can acknowledge without surrendering. Healing does not erase the wound. It removes its authority. It loosens its grip on your reactions, your choices, and your future. When you stop rehearsing your pain, you reclaim the space it occupied inside you. Your heart becomes quieter, your thoughts become lighter, and the world stops looking like a place built to repeat your suffering. These three forces, over-explaining, comparing, and holding on to old pain, shape the way you see yourself. They drain your confidence, your clarity, and your sense of direction not through chaos, but through repetition. They operate in the background, unnoticed, until one day you wake up and realize they've rewritten parts of you without permission. Eliminating them doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens through awareness, through honesty, through the gentle discipline of choosing yourself in small ways, again and again. And when you begin to release these burdens, you feel a shift inside you. Not dramatic, not loud, but steady. Your attention sharpens, your breathing deepens, your emotional world becomes less reactive. You stop bending under the pressure of trying to prove, to match, or to endure. This clarity creates room for the next layers of your transformation, the internal shifts that move you closer to the person you were always meant to become. One more silent burden you must remove is the need to engage in every battle that crosses your path. Not every disagreement deserves your attention, and not every confrontation is a sign of strength. You have spent years stepping into arguments that left you emptier instead of clearer, reacting to provocations that never required your voice, and trying to correct people who were committed to misunderstanding you. The cost of these unnecessary battles is not measured in words spoken, but in energy drained. Some discussions exist only to steal your focus. They don't move your life forward. They trap you in a loop where pride speaks louder than purpose. You've heard it in your own heartbeat, the quickening, the tension, the impulse to defend yourself even when the outcome holds no real value. But the truth is simple. The moment you start fighting for every opinion, you lose the ability to fight for your peace. Not every conflict is a battlefield. Some are just noise dressed as importance. There are people who argue to learn, and people who argue to win. The first group listens. The second waits for your pause so they can strike again. And when you give your time to the second group, your mind becomes a place where chaos echoes long after the conversation ends. Walking away is not weakness. It is mastery. Silence can be its own type of victory, not the kind that feeds the ego, but the kind that protects the spirit. You do not need to correct every misleading comment. You do not need to defend every misunderstood intention. You do not need to enter every emotional storm that others try to drag you into. There is profound strength in choosing where your energy goes and refusing to waste it on battles that offer no clarity, no growth, and no real direction. You conserve the fire inside you by learning when to let words fall to the ground untouched. When you stop engaging with every provocation, your inner world becomes steadier. Your thoughts stop spiraling in circles. Your emotions stop jumping at every external sound. You begin to notice that many of the conflicts you once treated as urgent were simply invitations, invites you were never required to accept. And the moment you decline them, peace slips back into your life like something that had been waiting patiently at the door. Letting go of unnecessary battles also changes the way you see yourself. You stop feeling responsible for convincing others that your perspective is valid. You stop needing agreement to feel anchored in your truth. You begin to trust your own judgment without performing it for an audience. Your identity becomes rooted in authenticity rather than reaction. And from that place, you rise not loudly, but with an unshakable steadiness. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the wisdom to choose which conflicts are worthy of your presence, and most are not. The world will always offer opportunities for chaos, debates, confrontations, criticisms, noise, but you decide which ones cross the threshold of your attention. This decision, repeated quietly and consistently, reshapes your entire emotional landscape. You become someone who does not break at every pressure, who does not bend at every opinion, who does not bleed energy into conversations that were never meant to matter. You strengthen yourself not by fighting more, but by fighting less, with intention. And the clarity that appears when you stop scattering your reactions becomes a kind of personal armor, light, silent, and powerful. It allows you to walk through the world without absorbing every tension around you. It teaches you that peace is earned, not through domination, but through discernment. And when unnecessary battles fade, something profound emerges, a deeper sense of direction. With fewer distractions pulling you in different directions, you feel your priorities sharpening. You feel your decisions becoming calmer. You feel your inner world breathing freely again. You are no longer trying to win arguments. You are trying to build a life steady, grounded, unmistakably yours. There is one more weight you must remove, one that seems harmless on the surface but quietly shapes the entire atmosphere of your mind, the disorder you allow in your environment and in your thoughts. Clutter is not just the stack of things on your desk or the unfinished tasks stored in forgotten corners. Clutter is every later you never return to, every obligation drifting in the background of your attention, every message left unread because it carries more emotional weight than you want to admit. You walk past these things every day, convincing yourself they mean nothing, but they whisper to you each time your eyes land on them. They remind you of delays, of promises, of unresolved pieces of your life. And without noticing, your mind becomes a room where nothing has a place. Chaos outside becomes chaos inside. You feel it when you try to focus and your thoughts scatter. You feel it when you try to rest and your mind replays everything unfinished. You feel it in the heaviness that appears not because life is overwhelming, but because you haven't created space for yourself to breathe. A cluttered environment teaches your brain that confusion is normal, that constant noise is expected, that clarity is a luxury reserved for rare moments. But clarity is not a luxury. It is a necessity, and it begins with the quiet discipline of choosing what stays and what goes. You don't need to transform your entire life in a day. You only need to reclaim one space at a time, a drawer, a corner, a single task. When you remove physical chaos, you also remove the mental noise tied to it. You begin to rebuild trust in yourself. Trust that you finish what you start. Trust that your environment reflects your priorities. Trust that you are not living in reaction to disorder, but in command of your space. Order is not perfection. Order is alignment. And alignment turns your mind into a place where ideas can breathe, where discipline has room to grow, where peace can finally settle without fighting for territory. Mental clutter is the same. Thoughts you never resolve. Decisions you endlessly postpone, worries that loop in circles because you never turn toward them with clarity. You don't need to silence your mind, you need to sort it. Ask what deserves attention. Ask what is fear disguised as logic. Ask what belongs to you and what you've been carrying for someone else. When your inner world becomes organized, even slightly, you regain a sense of direction that feels like stepping into light after walking through a dim hallway. You realize you are not tired, you are overloaded by things that did not deserve the weight they held. Releasing clutter is an act of self-respect. It is telling yourself that confusion will not be your default state. It is choosing to live with intention instead of inertia. And with every unnecessary object removed, every postponed task completed, every mental knot untangled, your peace expands silently, steadily, without asking for permission. You start waking up lighter. You walk through your days with more presence and less pressure. You stop tripping over the debris of old versions of yourself. You rise with a calm that doesn't need to announce itself. When you eliminate these 7 forces draining people, delayed dreams, endless explanations, comparison, identity built from pain, pointless battles, and internal or external clutter, you begin to experience something rare in this world, the return of your own clarity. The world around you doesn't become easier, you become clearer within it. You stop bending at every wind. You stop absorbing every tension. You begin to move with a wisdom that feels quiet but undeniable. You no longer chase peace, you protect it. If this message reached you deeply, like the video, subscribe, and comment which one of these 7 things you are removing first. Your comment might be the reminder someone else desperately needed today.